Have you ever considered why some people take advantage of others' kindness? Why does the saying, "No good deed goes unpunished," ring so true in certain situations? Let's start by spinning a tale as old as time, about our dear friend, Bob. Now, Bob was a good man, a man of principle, a man of kindness. He was the kind of man who would give you his last piece of candy, even if it were his favorite flavor. Bob was like a walking, talking embodiment of a golden retriever, always ready to lend a helping hand, or paw, if you will. Enter Joe, a notorious schemer, always looking for an opportunity to make a quick buck. Joe was the kind of guy who would sell ice to an Eskimo, or sand to a camel. He noticed Bob's unending goodwill, and like a moth to a flame, was drawn to exploit it. He would borrow money from Bob, promising to pay it back the very next day. But as we all know, tomorrow never comes. Joe would ask Bob to cover his shifts at work, always spinning a sob story that would melt even the coldest of hearts. Bob, being the good-natured soul he was, always obliged. Over time, Bob began to feel the strain. He was working double shifts, his savings were dwindling, and yet he could not bring himself to say no to Joe. It was as if he were stuck in a loop, a never-ending cycle of exploitation. But let's not get too gloomy here, folks. You see, every cloud has a silver lining. And for Bob, that silver lining came in the form of his wise old grandmother. One day, after seeing her grandson's weary face, she said, "Bob, my dear, goodness is not a weakness, but allowing others to exploit it is." Her words struck a chord with Bob. He realized that his kindness was not the problem. Rather, it was his inability to set boundaries and protect his own interests. Now Bob still lends a helping hand, but he's learned to say no when necessary. He's learned that being kind does not mean being a doormat. And as for Joe, well, let's just say he's had to find a new person to exploit. In summary, the tale of Bob and Joe serves as a reminder that while kindness is a virtue, it is important to protect oneself from being taken advantage of. It is crucial to set boundaries and ensure that our goodwill is not exploited. Remember, no one can take advantage of you without your permission. So the next time you find yourself being overly generous, remember our friend Bob and his wise old grandmother. Remember that kindness is not a weakness, and you have the right to say no. And to those who might be tempted to exploit others' kindness, remember Joe. Exploiting others' goodness for your own benefit is not a sustainable strategy. It might work for a while, but eventually people will catch on. And when they do, you'll find yourself having to sell sand to a camel. And trust me, that's not as easy as it sounds. Remember, a world where everyone respects each other's boundaries and kindness is a world where everyone wins. Now, wouldn't that be a wonderful place to live?